Hello and welcome to Geek Chic, created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of style. This is the home for business brain candy. On Geek Chic, we invite a subject matter experts in to give us their experience, their knowledge, and a very different view of a subject that could have really significant impact to your business. This podcast is brought to you from Sales Geek Essex in partnership with DMB Films, the home for professional podcast filming. Links to all of this will be in our About session. So welcome to Geek Chic, created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of fashion. The home for business brain candy. And this week's episode of Cerebral Sweetness is all about continuous improvement. And our guest today is the magnificent David Stubberfield from Carter Consultancy and author of Supercharging the Customer Experience. And it's all around that. So lovely to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Dave. And thank you for coming in and doing this. So tell me a little bit about your journey to this part in your career and writing Supercharge Your Customer Experience.
Corporate background. And 14 years ago, I was asked if I wanted to get involved in something called Lean. And I was like, okay, what's Lean? That quickly changed into continuous improvement. And then from there, it kind of just, there was something that lit a spark inside of me. That was my passion that I found. Left the corporate world behind, starting my own business. And along the way, I've learned customer experience and change management methodologies as well, which has led me to ultimately writing the book that's based on our customer experience training framework as well.
Brilliant. Well, that sounds like a hell of a journey. So when you say, I love the fact that you're passionate about this. I mean, it is all about passionate people because passionate people really kind of go in deep on these things. So what we'll start with, because maybe that's a good place to start, is not everybody is going to understand what continuous improvement is. So what is continuous improvement and why should we care?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Continuous improvement is really based around process, people, and having that structure, that mindset, the methodology to help improve a business. I think naturally businesses will generally kind of do things that they fix things that are broken and they just get on and do it. They don't measure how bad it might be or what they can do to improve. They just get on and do with it. Continuous improvement provides kind of the methodology, the framework to create that structure so that we can see the journey we've been on to create that stair-step kind of level of improvement. Yeah. And that's really ultimately what it's all about. It's about empowering people to take things on their own and improve what they can that's in their control, but using problem-solving tools to help influence teams and people around them.
Yeah, you said something there about measurement. Now, measurement and metrics, data, all of that stuff, I mean, that runs through pretty much everything, you know, as somebody who is a leader or thought leader or leading a team in a particular field. The first thing we ask is like, well, what's the data? What's the metrics? What are the measurements? So what is it? You know, I mean, what's important to measure? Why is measurement incredibly important? Why is it important to get the data on these things?
Again, another great question, and we touch about it in the book. KPIs historically, key performance indicators, have been in place since day dot. Are they measuring the right things? Probably not. They're just historic ways of measuring things. Nowadays, we need to identify what's important. A, to the business, B, to people, and C, to the customers. If you can measure the right things start to improve. If you can measure that correctly, you can have a massive influence. So just measuring things for the sake of it, the wrong way to go about it. Understanding what those measures are and why we measure them, that's the right thing to do.
That's really cool. So what do you think are the key, I mean, like the key measurements? There is a big thing. I do not like KPIs. KPIs are for leaders and targets, and they're to keep them on track and to keep the forecasts going. I prefer OKRs, or the outcomes and key results, because if people are focused on the outcomes and the key results, then it becomes less about, well, you need to do this thing so many times. So what would you say are like the real key measurements that you need to kind of have a look at as a business owner, leader?
Yeah, I think that's a really kind of key question when people ask me that question.
Yeah.
There's 4 categories for me. People, quality, cost and delivery. In people, you're kind of looking at employees and customers and what you can do there. Quality, what are we producing it to what level and what standard? Cost, naturally, is kind of your normal KPIs, if you like, your traditional ones when it comes to traditional businesses. Delivery, so how you do it, how you get from A to B. I think naturally people go, we've got this process, this is how we've always done it. The beauty of it is stepping back and going, is that the right way to do it? Looking at how we measure our delivery. So those 4 components really for me are the corner piece of the continuous improvement methodology.
That's very cool. And that's that thing. It's like doing something for something's sake or doing something for the right reason. And there are so many people that are stuck. We are creatures of habit, right? We are creatures of habit. It's very, very difficult for us to change behaviour. I mean, that's one of my key kind of headlines is changing understanding to be able to change behaviour. But being creatures of habit, we do things because we've always done those things. And there's that old adage from Henry Ford, if you always do what you always did, then you always get what you always got. So it's really interesting. When I go into a business, I find that people don't even really know what to measure or measure the basics. What do you find? I mean, I think, what's your experience when you're going into a business who are kind of going, right, we think we've got a problem, we know we need to improve in these things because we're not hitting where we want to be in all of these things. What's your experience? Have you had an experience? What's your general experience?
It's unbelievable, is the truth of it. Some people measure things really well for the sake of it. So the true measures don't exist.
Oh, okay.
Or they haven't got a handle on it at all. So there was one organisation I remember working with who were telling me all these great things they did. Dave, we've automated this, we've done that, brilliant. I was like, what's the improvement? What was the benefit there? We don't know. Right, okay, so you've automated something, but you can't tell me the benefit, what time it's saved, and what that robot is doing. You've got a process there you've automated. Did you optimise that process before you automated it? Or is the automation running crap? Is it inefficient? And that for me is kind of the questions for me is asking why. Why do you do that? And it could be that it's a daft question, but the role I play gives me that ability to ask those daft questions. Yes. Because someone could rightly go, Dave, we do that because of X, Y, Z reasons, regulatory, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But I've asked the question. The beauty of it is when someone goes, why do we do that?
What is it we're actually doing? Like, why do we do that thing?
And that is a mic drop moment where you go, I'll just leave you guys to it.
You're just going to go, I'm just going to step away for a bit so you can work out
Absolutely.
what the hell you're doing here. No, it is that thing. We get into this, we get onto a treadmill and we keep doing what we're doing, and it's that grind, and it's about that, the RNA process, so that review and adapt that you'll hear an awful lot in the agile world. Review and adapt, fail fast, all of those kinds of things, and being able to stop. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have in our careers, in our work, in our businesses is that we don't take the time to stop and actually think about what it is we're doing. And that for me is an awful lot around the leadership, the command control. We need you to do this, we need you to do that, we need it done double fast and all of that sort of stuff. So when it comes to continuous improvement, not giving people the time and space to innovate, to think about things. Do you find that an awful lot in the...
100%. 100%. And for me, I always say I'm the enabler.
Yeah.
I come in and I say, how do you do things, guys? And they go, we do things like this. Brilliant. You do it like that. the process could be documented completely differently. So process adherence could be one problem. The next thing you start to look at is the time people are given to step back and go, how do we actually do things around here? Having that time, like you said, to innovate, that's the word. And it could be making a very, very simple change to a process that could be really kind of the catalyst for something really, really innovative. I go in and I say, ask the question, why? And people go, okay, let's think about that. Giving people that time to stand back, reflect and go, where have we been versus where we are now versus where we want to be? I think a lot of people get hung up on bringing something new into the business.
Yeah.
But if you become more efficient in how you do things, the new things you could bring in are worth so much more. So I think having the ability to give people time, empower them to look at what's in their control and say, what would you like to improve? That is one of the questions I ask everyone all the time. If you could change or improve one thing, what would it be? And often people will write something down very, very quickly. And if you've got a room of 20 people and there's consistency in what they're all saying, you've found a true problem. If there's lots of different answers, okay, some people care about different things potentially, but it opens up conversation and people go, I've not really considered that before. Yeah. Okay, why? And it gives that different dynamic because people think in different ways.
Yes.
Having different kind of styles of understanding, thinking, behaving, breeds so much differentiation that gives the business the power to grow and improve. So harnessing those voices, for me, is the way to bring people on that journey because people support what they create, right? If they're involved in that process, rather than the command and control kind of environment, that's when it becomes kind of carrot and stick territory.
Yes.
And people get sort of disillusioned with where the business might be going. So, for me, give people the time, the space, empower them to take on things, give them the tools to do it as well.
So that's going back to that as well, because that's really interesting. So we talk about servant leadership. You and I both, have had lots of conversations about servant leadership over command and control. And command and control is kind of like the old way of doing things. It's it's like we're in charge. It's all around status. It's all around, kind of telling people what to do. That management rather than leadership. Yep. So are you finding that there's a step change, or are you finding that actually, the people who are driving businesses, usually because of their own insecurities, tend to lean towards the command control? Or do you feel like with this sort of lean, agile, continuous improvement, all of those things, do you think people are shifting to that more servant leadership place? And kind of, it's probably good to explain to people what that actually is.
Yeah, I think, again, it's the old adage of the iceberg, right? The guy that's sitting at the top of the tree probably doesn't know 99% of the problems that are happening in the business.
Yeah, true.
So what's sitting under the surface really kind of goes unnoticed. So identifying that from the ground up is great, but you need that sponsorship, that buy-in from the very top. So leaders need to be able to hear what's not working well, but they also need to hear people go, I think we should do this, I think we should do that, or we're trialing this, we're experimenting with that. Brilliant. Not only have you told me what the problem is, you've also told me what you're trying to do or what you want to do about it. Often people say there's a problem here and it just gets raised to the surface. People then say management didn't do anything with it. This gives people the ability to go, and this is the framework that we're using to help drive that improvement. I think the kind of leadership point of view, some leaders go, no, I don't want you to do that. I want you to do this.
Yeah.
So the ambition is kind of halfway there for continuous improvement and other methodologies, but there's something there that's stopping them, that's holding them back from truly letting go and letting their people flourish, really. And I think putting your trust in people to say, look, your processes, you're in control of them. What can you do to change them? The guy at the top that doesn't work, or lady at the top that doesn't work on them day in, day out, isn't going to know the problems as in depth as the people that do, that live and breathe it day in, day out. So for me, that leadership piece is critical. And that's probably why continuous improvement, agile, DevOps, you name it, they fail. because the sponsorship isn't there and set in. So one of the things I do is sponsorship contracts. So
Oh, okay,
you get
that's
people
really
involved
interesting.
and you say, right, you're committing to this. You're giving people time. You're giving your time and you're committing to this. Sign it. People can hold you to account for that.
And it's really powerful, that whole contractual thing, because that's where we commit, right? And it's all very well saying, oh, yes, I'll do that. But to actually have it written down and for people to have to sign that is incredibly powerful. And I also always say, you know, in Agile, we recruit adult professionals and then let them do their job, and then we serve them as leaders to be able to kind of allow them to flourish, because that's how people flourish, when they have passion, autonomy, you know, when they have psychological safety to be able to make those decisions, make those changes, make mistakes. That's the huge thing. People are not allowed to make mistakes, which is insane because we're human and we make mistakes, right? So I think all of that piece, and I think people, when people say leadership, they see as the top of the tree, whereas actually you can be a leader in all areas. What are your thoughts on leadership?
Totally agree. Yes, you've got your traditional leaders at the top.
Yeah.
You've got technical leaders. You've got leaders that reside within a team that help fuel the team and say, I think we should do this, and people follow. Some leaders are better than others. Some are more vocal than others. I think there are good ways and bad ways of showcasing those behaviours.
Yeah.
But leaders exist everywhere. And it could be specific fields, like my field of expertise is continuous improvement.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a leader in that space, but get me in a room and facilitate, I will let people have a conversation and feel that themselves until I find the natural leader sitting there.
Yes.
And I know, right, okay, this is the person that I might need to challenge or harness and to leverage everyone else. So it's understanding the different dynamics of how things work. And that could be across an organisation, you've got your traditional manager or leader, but the leader for another team could be someone that the manager trusts. So it's like, I'm going to delegate that responsibility to this person because they know what they're talking about and hand the reins over, rather than I'm in charge here, I know what goes on. Leaders live everywhere and we need to embrace them.
I definitely, my theory about it is that a leader is just someone who is invested in the success of others. Yeah, because when you do that, that's servant leadership piece. It's like anybody who's championing somebody else is a leader as far as I'm concerned. And that's not a traditional kind of viewpoint. It's like those who are in charge.
Yep.
There's a very big difference between in charge and managing, and then leadership and raising people up. I just think that's
totally
really,
agree.
really key. And I think it's really interesting when you see people, when you're in that room and you're starting to speak to the people who are making those decisions, and those different agendas come up. What people will always ask, who's the decision maker? They'll go to the person that's either employed them or something like that. But what you will actually find, what people say and the hierarchy and all of that sort of stuff is very different to the way a business is actually made up.
Yep.
And what you'll find is you've got people who sign things off, and there are people who influence. And I think, what would be your best tip on how to navigate those differing agendas and those different kind of influences? And, you know, because it can be quite political, right? Because you never really see how it actually works until you're actually in it.
So, great example, the training I do, the use of a cup of tea, the making of a cup of tea is my go-to process. Because it can be done a number of ways. So when we start to map that process out, there will be someone that takes the lead. And it'll be, right, okay, we put the milk in first. And then someone will go, don't agree with that. But they don't have the confidence to speak up, so they follow that process. They're led by that person who's made that decision for them. Whereas what we want to be doing is understanding that consensus. So, okay, you put the milk in first. Anyone else do that? No? Okay, just me. So we'll go with the majority. And that, for me, is where we start to uncover the true leaders that ask around them what's going on rather than the follow me guys, I've got this. And that leadership really, in that example, they always rise to the surface very, very quickly, and they start to take that lead very, very quickly. So if you can harness them and understand that they want to be that leader, that's their natural gift, if you like, that's what they like to do, how can you start to harness and leverage them to have more of a positive impact? So it's all about behaviours as well.
So there's a couple of things that I'm going to challenge you on that one, because you know I like to challenge you. So when you say you go with the majority, sometimes the left field, the out of, being non-neurotypical, I always think of something completely different, and people go, oh, that's a bit weird. The change makers. So there's a difference between going with the majority, the way it's always been done, the way people are happy and confident, and the change makers. Actually, I would see you as you are. That's what you come into a business to do. You're a change maker. But being able to have that sponsor somebody to be able to do that, maybe against, maybe someone quieter, maybe someone not, that people wouldn't necessarily notice. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of empower the change makers in an organisation? How do you kind of empower them? Because sometimes they're not the people that will always, they're not the noisiest like me.
You can spot them a mile away as well.
Oh, really? How do you spot them?
For me, you can kind of see them very attentive, listening to every single word, and there's just the odd bit of body language that makes you think they want to say something here. I used to be that person. I used to sit in a room very, very shy, and it would be like watching a game of tennis, and I just wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Now, I've got the confidence to say what I want, basically, but seeing those people, I pick up with them after and say, how do you think today went? Oh, yeah, it was a really good day, da-da-da-da-da. What do you think about when so-and-so said that? Yeah, I didn't really agree with that. Oh, it's really interesting, tell me more. You get that information, and at the end of that you say, do you mind if I open tomorrow's session using what you've just told me? No, that's fine. So I would then paraphrase what that person said, and everyone's gone, oh, okay, didn't realise he thought that. But it's given him an extra step up to then maybe want to say something else the following day. So identifying those people, bringing them on that journey, make you said it, a safe environment. You've got to bring them on that journey to let everyone know they've got the freedom to say what they want, because no idea at this point is a bad idea. Understanding how the process works today, yes, we need to understand that consensus. Mm-hmm. But tomorrow, what does that look like? We need people to think in different ways, innovative. Go, yeah, do you know what? We've never considered that. Great idea. Let's trial it. Let's experiment. Is it even feasible? But at least we've got the idea on the table now. Yeah,
I mean, we are... One of the biggest problems with innovation is that we are creatively shamed at a really early age. Shame is it's like, just because you can't draw a house like Billy over there, or you can't dance like, James in the corner, or you can't sing like Josephine, or whatever it is, and we get shamed through, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, and creative shaming happens all the way through our education. And what that means is that when we get into our careers, that we're not confident, the thing we're least confident about is around that creativity, because it was like, well, I'm not creative. But you see so many people. I would consider myself to be absolutely a creative. Yeah, and I take that creativity. That's my differentiator. I can create all kinds of chaos. Good chaos, but it's all kinds of chaos. But it's like that holding that space and creating a psychologically safe environment for people to do that is incredibly powerful. That must be a massively rewarding part of what it is you do.
Yeah, especially when you can see people that have kind of put the guardrails up and they're sitting there, arms crossed.
Oh, body language,
okay, cool, brilliant. I know who I've got to work with.
Yeah.
And again, asking that one question, what could you do? What could you do to improve something? That gives them, on a post-it note, that freedom. That's their psychologically safe space. They don't know after that we're going to put it on a whiteboard and discuss it, but it's the starting point for that. And I think creating that gives the ability for people to progress and grow, even to the point sometimes where the leader says, I'm going to step out, guys, because there might be a dynamic where the leaders are seen as them and us kind of thing between the people on the ground. I think that's the ability, if the leader can recognise that and go, we're starting to grow, we're starting to do something different. Some people, the leader would say, and people still have the guardrails up and don't say anything.
Yeah, so do you find that's like a big thing, taking the boss or taking the kind of really dominant character out of the room? Like, sometimes. Is that something you do?
Sometimes.
Something I have to do,
and
definitely.
It depends on the dynamic of the situation. If it's really disruptive or it's not creating the energy we want, then potentially we'd extract them for a period of time. Or we flip it on its head and go, what would you do here? And then you kind of put the pressure on that person to go, and they stumble, they stutter.
Yeah.
They go, well, if it was me, I would do this. And then someone that has got the confidence might go, yeah, we can't do that because of
the C word. I hate that C word, that can't,
And that kind of goes, right, okay. So that person gets brought down a notch.
Yes.
And the person that's spoken up goes up a notch.
Yeah.
So we're creating that level playing field.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, why can't we do that? What's stopping us from doing that? For us to do that, we need to do X, Okay, cool.
But so how would you turn it around and say, well, how?
Because the pathway to get there, 100%.
Yeah, I do joke about the C word being can't. You know, I was told as a child, like, there's no such word as can't. Yeah, and I know that C word, I continue that through. I joke about it all the time. But that can't, you know, the bad C word is the bad C word for me, right? So it's turning it around to kind of, okay, so, but this is the best outcome. Right? Do we agree that that's the best outcome? But you say we can't do it this way, or this isn't possible to do it this way. Is there a way we can facilitate that? You know, that's a better conversation, right?
100%. And I think if you kind of focus, like every organisation is going to have a vision, where they want to get to, what they want to achieve. It's going to differ depending on the size of the organisation, the industry, wherever they might be. But if you focus on keeping your people happy, the people keep the customers happy. The customers provide the success for the business. So if you go in that order, you're going to create something really, really special. So regardless of your vision, you'll get there if you focus on your people. And it's not just about ticking a box to keep them happy and buy a pizza on a Friday.
Yes.
Get under the skin of it.
Yeah.
What do they care about?
Yes.
What are their values? This is driving a lot of behaviours for both employees and customers nowadays.
Yeah.
Is values. You can have a product or service that's much more expensive than a competitor, as long as your customer experience is at a level, and it's people go, I would rather pay the money for the service that they provide, or they align with my values. I think nowadays people are more willing, is the word I would say, to leave a job or leave a role because the organisation doesn't align with their values, rather than pay. Yes, pay is important, but I think values is creeping up alongside that, if not overtaking it. Values
is everything. I mean, we at SalesGo, we're a values and mission based driven company. I mean, that runs through everything. And it's the same with relationships. If your values don't align, it's never going to last for a long time. So really understanding what those values are and the values of people is incredibly important. So I keep swapping between. I've got a couple of questions here that I keep swapping between because I think actually this one probably follows this conversation really well. So I've got one of the pillars of continuous improvement is improving processes. Now in Agile, one of the pillars is one of the kind of leading statements is that you have people over processes. So where do you sit on this? How do you work through, you know, and do you align with the Agile kind of thought process, or have you got a different view on things?
It's a yes and no answer for me. Agree with the statement entirely.
Yeah.
But I think having the right process in place is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I think if you focus on people, there's an opportunity and a chance potentially that people just go off in their own direction and do their own thing. You need that governance from the process to say, this is how we do things. This is how we make our cup of tea. If that was our widget we were producing day in, day out, we need that process to say, okay, we can keep up with demand because we know we can produce X amount of widgets in that day.
Yeah.
Having that process is incredibly important. Empowering people to leverage that process is the key. So people over process in that sense, absolutely.
Yeah. But is it the people? So you put it back to the people. So the thing is, the way I think about things, when I'm putting a new like a system or process in place, and I'm absolutely, because I am, wildly chaotic in what I do. So without those systems and processes, without that strategy, without that framework to work on, you have very little freedom, which sounds really odd. But when it comes to people over processes, I think when you work with the people to create the process, they have ownership, they have understanding, they've created it. So I think, again, whilst, we can sit there and kind of play tennis with this, I think, the processes need to be created, agreed, ratified by the people to be able to, for them to have ownership and for them to follow it and be able to follow it in a way that they understand.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the way I would look at that is you say to a new joiner, for example, this is the way we do things around here. Here's the processes you'll be following. If you don't agree with anything, challenge it. In my old role, we did this or we didn't do that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That could be brand new information.
New
for
blood.
us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that really kind of drives that people over process, definitely.
Yeah.
I think when people come in and there isn't a system or a process in place, chaos just reigns.
It is. And the thing is that you don't know where to start. There's what's step 1, what's step 2, what's step 3, and being able to clarify what the steps are, what are the goals, what are the outcomes, what are we trying to achieve with this, what resources do we need in here. Just having that process, system, alignment, understanding, having something that people can, at the very least, kind of lean on, to be able to be. I think when you have clearly defined, it's like boundaries, isn't it? It's like we have a boundary, this is the step that we need to take. And then having the boundaries around that and saying, right, we can be creative within that space, but it needs to follow a specific process, which again goes back to how do we measure? What do we measure? What's important in this particular step?
Yeah.
I think this is like, I think we sing from the same hymn sheet,
Absolutely.
don't we?
And for me, it's the key bit, and I think the word is foundations. Continuous improvement is the foundation for organisations to build upon. So if you haven't got a great system or process in place, have continuous improvement in as the foundation, the mindset, the culture that drives you forward. From there, you can add in Agile, DevOps, ITIL, whatever methodology you might want to, because you've got that foundational piece there where, okay, improving is part of our DNA.
Yeah.
I think if you start to go, let's say Agile, Agile, people do a LinkedIn course or something for an hour. Oh yeah, we do Agile. And it's, okay, it's not quite.
Yeah.
You need that foundational piece. And I think that's where continuous improvement comes in, really. It drives that ambition, that motivation to grow.
And I think it's really important to kind of give a little bit of reassurance, because when we go into business, when we start a business, we're not operations specialists, we're not sales directors, we're not managing directors, we're not any kind of expert. We tend to be somebody who's really good at something and who doesn't want to work for the man.
Yep.
Yeah. We want to step out of the corporate agenda. We want to do something different. We want to do what we do differently because the current restraints can't do that. We're not specialists in any of these things, so it's about, I think, reassuring people that they don't have to know everything. I think we, as leaders or managers or founders, all of the things we need to know everything. But that's not the case, is it?
No, it's not. It's about having the right people around you. People are an organisation's greatest asset.
Amen.
I cannot stress it enough. And that probably leads people over process, right?
Yeah.
So if you can harness and leverage those people, keep them happy, give them the power to improve things, they're going to be happy. My mantra is I want people to come to work with a smile on their face. So what can we do to make their working lives easy? They know they're going to work on this process today and it's going to work. They haven't got to chase their tail and go around the houses. We've fixed that problem. We've made the process efficient. They can be productive. the repetitive tasks are automated potentially.
Yeah.
All of these different things. That for me is the pinnacle. It's like people have to come to work happy. Keep them happy. Everything else just seems to follow. And I think if you start to focus on kind of being a jack of all trades, that's where the cracks start to appear.
Yeah, I think there's a big thing around T-shaped team players, right? So you have, a knowledge of how it works with everything else, but a singular sort of deep dive on those sort of things. And I think the other point I was going to make was that having a lot of business owners that I speak to, they're very negative about people and their performance. Yeah, very negative. And it's a case of what I do end up finding is they're not creating an environment where they can have ownership, be passionate, show their values, all of the rest of the stuff. Because when you come in and you don't have that ownership, that passion, that purpose, you have people who are robots just doing a job. They're not going to stay for very long. Mm-hmm. They're not going to shine. They're not empowered to do that. And turning that around is turning that mindset around for the leaders. These people don't do anything. Well, actually, it's about the environment, and the environment that's created is you do this because I say.
Yep.
And there is no leadership. It is about management. Do you find that a lot?
I do, and it's that kind of that switch. It's like turning a tanker in a canal. It can be very, very hard. But if you can just slowly start to turn the dial and you see the improvement or the change, that's when it becomes easier to get all the way around and complete that 180. And that for me that's the kind of the pinnacle for me, is trying to motivate people to try and do the right thing. Regardless of what that might be in terms of their industry, organisation, it's driving the silo way of working out. And that could be an individual, right?
Yeah.
So that individual could be tunnel focused on what they need to do.
Yes.
Rather than the inputs they get, the outputs they create.
And where it goes.
And where it goes.
Yeah, what's the flow?
And that's it. I think if you can take away those barriers and go, right, okay, end to end, you could start looking at a customer journey.
Yep.
Or value stream mapping, whatever you want to call it. Where does that value come from? Request comes in, something comes out the other side. What do we do to it?
Yeah.
And if you can start to break down those barriers and people start to see the bigger picture,
they
go, oh, wow, okay, I didn't realise you speak to the customer at that point. It'd be really good if we could get this information out. This would make my life so much easier. Yeah. Oh, cool, yeah, we didn't know that before. Those little insights, those little nuggets, the customer thinks, why are they asking me that question? When it comes out the other side, that's why. Yeah, so that brings us brilliantly onto the customer experience question, which is, so you're focusing on the customer, on the outcomes of what you do. What is the impact and the customer experience, and why is that important? I think for me right now, we're living in the age of the customer, where they have got so much choice, more than ever before.
Yeah.
And things are really, really easy to do now from a consumer point of view. So let's say, for example, you wanted to change your utility provider.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. Have to give a statement. The rest happens in the background. You don't have to do anything. Okay. Why would you want to stay with your current provider if you can get a cheaper rate elsewhere and you don't have to do anything? Yeah. That's the bit we need to start looking at and going, right, okay, what is the value we're providing to our customers? Is it value for money? Is it the customer experience itself? What is it? And I think the question we ask in the book is, there's so much content out there on customer experience, but why is customer experience so rare still? Like that great customer experience. Yeah,
the customer centricity. So that's just and do you know why? The way I think is that I think we sit in our own little bubbles and we're sitting in our agenda. I need to do this. I need to do that. I all of that sort of stuff. And when I speak to businesses and I say, well, why are people buying your systems, your products, your services? And they don't even know because they haven't asked, because everybody's too frightened to ask, right? So customer centricity has to be, because they're the ones that are spending their hard-earned money. So it's like there is no other person. It's like, just, for me, sales is like, well, you find out what they need and then you just give it to them. It's not, it's like, let's not make it any more complicated than it is. But that customer centricity and the customer journey. So what have you found changes in that customer journey with when you kind of have implemented this continuous improvement?
So I think if we take what you just said there, understanding what the customers value, flip it on its head. Customers already left. Why? Don't know. Too late now. So if you've got a high rate of customer churn, which is out there at the minute because it is so easy to create a bespoke product elsewhere, you need to identify the value you provide to your current customers. So asking that question, feedback is massively important. Are surveys dead? Jury's out.
That's if you even had a survey or got any feedback.
That's true. But the effort that goes into creating that survey, ratifying the contact information you have for customers, is it still valid? How long have you had it for? GDPR, all of that stuff. And then you actually send it out. The average return rate is between 4 and 12%, which is ridiculous. So how do you go and speak to your customer?
Do you know what? I was just about to ask you that, because feedback, we are hardwired for human connection. And when somebody says something we don't like, it registers in the brain the same way as physical injury does. So we avoid asking, going back to customers that have left you. I do a whole piece on audit selling. I'm going to come and do an audit of why you're no longer a customer, so that we can learn and improve and all the rest of the stuff. So I always say that actually your best feedback is one that you take personally, that you go out and you ask, if you can, your customers, and you go in and you give them the psychological safety to literally crucify you, if that is what's needed, right? If they've left you because you're an absolute arse, well, you need to know that, right? But we avoid feedback. We avoid asking. Well, I've got customers that will avoid even having regular account management with them because, if we do that, if we ask them how things are going, they're just going to leave. And you're just thinking, what the hell is going on here? So if you're only getting 4 to 12% on surveys, do you have a view on the best way to get feedback?
You just said it there, it's human connection.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone. How you getting on? What are you doing? How you finding the product service? That customer could be like, yeah, we're okay. Thank you. And it's, why are you ringing me? Yeah. Because you've never done this before.
Yeah.
So we're going to ring out again in a couple of months' time. So if anything comes up between now and then, okay, cool.
Feel free to call me.
And at that point, it's kind of, I believe that when I see it.
Yes.
When the phone call happens again, okay, I'll give Dave a call. 2 weeks' time. Dave, I've got a problem. Leave it with me. So it's creating that trust.
Yes.
Psychological safety, you said it there. But I think speaking to people, if you've got the ability to ring people, just ring them. Leave them a message and just let them know that you're there and you're thinking of them. It sounds a bit cliche, but that's what customers want. They want to have that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Absolutely.
So let them know you're there. Give them a call. A survey is all well and great. You can put a logo on it. You can ask the questions you want to. But if you...
People aren't going to take time. People don't take time. I mean,
the
amount of...
so low.
As a business leader, I have so much junk in my email. I mean, I've probably got... probably about 700 emails that I haven't answered. Don't tell anybody that. But taking the time, even when you say, look, this is coming, even if it's a basic call, it's about investing into that continuous improvement, investing into actually reaching out and making your customers feel valued. And we do a whole thing on values. What kind of business are you? Are you a relationship business? Well, so many people. I reckon the percentage of people that I speak to, my customers, at least 75% of them will all say that they're a relationship business. We sell on relationships. Yep. We give great customer service. They very rarely do. But, they do all of that. But then it's a case of, okay, so what do? You do this, build the rapport, you have this relationship through the sale, you do all of that sort of stuff. But what do you do to actually continue that relationship? Because you and I both know, right, the hardest thing to get out of, and the reason why people want relationship businesses, is because relationships are difficult to break, right? But also people forget that relationships take investment. They take in time. They take time, they take touches, they take all of those things.
Yeah.
And you have to be the bee that visits, you know, the flower all of the time to make sure they know you're here. That you're not like into the CRM and never spoken to again, which is what happens in an awful lot of sales environments, right? So that feedback thing is so important. It's like, if you think you're a relationship business, prove it. It's like, continue that relationship. If you got married and then didn't speak to your wife for, you know, a year, I don't think you'd be in a relationship for very long.
And that's
right?
it, right? That's the customer journey. So you said it.
Exactly.
The sales goes up, building the rapport, sale clinched, boom.
Yeah.
And it drops down. Naturally, because that salesperson has done their job.
Yes.
Let's say they've washed their hands of it, but it's kind of job done, move on to the next one, generally.
Yeah.
And then the support guys pick up the pieces and go, oh, we've got this new customer who's feeling a little bit disillusioned because the rapport he built up already could have been tainted a little bit. So how do you, keep it a kind of a flat line, so there's a handoff, so sales go to support, here you go,
Yep.
this is customer. Or how do you kind of minimise the impact that you have from there? So it's kind of the beauty of continuous improvement is either eliminating waste or steps that are unnecessary or reducing them. And I think if you can do that and leverage your people at the same time, that's the beauty. Again, people in the organisation going to talk to customers, whether that's on the phone and say, oh, we've got this problem, brilliant.
Yeah.
Having a clue, a handle to understanding what customers are feeling the most pain at the minute.
Yes.
You might not even need to speak to that customer. You go, right, this customer's at risk. We need to put more attention to them compared to customer B. A little bit unfair potentially, but if you're looking at the bottom line, you need to focus on that customer over the second one. So
definitely
understanding the awareness from what people are hearing and seeing as well.
Definitely. And it's something like, it's 5 times harder to get a new customer than to service a current customer. And yet customers fall through the cracks every single day. So when it's going on to customer experience, the biggest impact, it's easier to upsell, cross-sell, increase frequency, all of those things to be able to impact and drive your revenue. A hell of a lot easier to work with your current customers than to go and get all of that energy, 5 times the energy.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
Ring a customer and you say, how you getting on? Yeah, okay, be great if the product could do this. It does. You just need to open this up or pay for this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Upsell is unbelievable, like untapped potential there.
I agree.
And I think we're not leveraging it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we do huge courses, upselling, cross-selling, subscriptions, you know, because that's the way you drive revenue. Absolutely. So that's the big impact on the bottom line, isn't it? So kind of we've gone through quite a lot of different methodologies, different things, lean, agile, all of that sort of stuff. Are there any other methodologies that would have an impact on a bottom line through continuous improvement?
Yeah. So you've got DevOps, there's CI/CD. There's loads.
Can you just, because a lot of people out there are not going to know what DevOps is.
So DevOps is bringing kind of development and operations closer together. Octopus Energy, great example. They have development guys sitting next to their operations guys. The operations will take a customer through something. Development will say, why did you just do that in 3 clicks? That's the way it's done. Okay, cool. Let's change that so it's 1 click. Easier for the person operating it, better customer experience as a result. That's why they're winning so many awards at the minute. And I think for me, continuous integration, continuous deployment, that's kind of a little bit like Agile to a degree. Software-based potentially. I think what people try to do is pigeonhole buzzwords or methodologies and say, we're doing this.
They're not doing that.
They're not doing it. And it's OKRs, you mentioned that at the very top of it, objectives, key results. That for me is kind of brilliant, but what else are you doing to help drive them? You need that framework, you need that structure. And I think the best way to look at it, right, continuous improvement, CI/CD, Agile, DevOps, lots of different terminologies and lots of different tools and techniques within them.
Yeah.
That's your toolkit right there.
Yeah.
You can use whichever tools are fit for purpose. don't turn around and
You
say...
don't have to be a purist, do you? No.
And you don't have to say, oh, we can't do Agile because we're already doing continuous improvement, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You can use and harness as much as you want to. Depends on the...
There'll be Agilists freaking out all over the
Oh, I'm
country.
sure there will. I'm sure. I've upset a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, we like upsetting the apple cart. So I love your top tips. I urge everybody to kind of connect up with you on LinkedIn and see your videos, which you now do because I've told you you have to do it, right?
It was your fault. Yeah.
It's all my fault. I'm taking full responsibility for that. What would be your top tips, or what are the top things that a business owner or operations director or head of customer service, what are the top 3 things that they would need to either notice or pay attention to kind of go, I think we need some other eyes on this? What would be the 3 kind of red flags, as it were?
Red flags would be having the right measures.
Okay.
If you've got them, customer churn's one.
Right.
Having a handle on customer churn.
So customer churn.
That's the biggest red flag. If you're seeing that go up, even if it's 5%, which would be really good, and you're seeing it increase 6, 7, 8, there's something going on.
Yeah.
If it's kind of fluctuating, okay, but definitely have a little look at it. So measures are one, and that's just one example.
Yeah. I'm writing notes because I'm learning.
I think from that point, it's then what can we do in-house? Have we got transformation or continuous improvement people in play that we can use to help us take that step back? If you haven't, take that step back. Look at how we do things today. Not what's documented, how do we actually do it? Because
nobody really follows those processes. Like, yes, everything's in the manual. Yeah, but how things are done are very different. So what would be the other 2 red flags? So customer churn would be a big one.
Would be one. Employee churn's a massive one as well.
Right, yeah, employee churn.
If you've got employees leaving, either there's something not right in terms of the values, the vision, direction of the business.
Yes.
It could be competitive pay. Again, that's big. But I would say a lot of it is kind of what people believe in. Do they trust what the company's actually saying?
Yes.
So that would be 2.
Yep.
And I think the 3rd one, I would say it has to be profit margin.
Okay, that's really cool. Talk to me about that.
So if you're seeing the profit margin decrease, which I'm sure a lot of people have recently because of cost of living,
people
supply
are pressing
chain,
down.
So naturally, people are putting their prices up to keep the margin the same. Become more efficient in what you do and how you do it.
Yes.
Keep the price point the same. You won't risk customer churn. If you keep the price point the same, people are going to go, oh, okay, this company's doing well because we've not seen the impact. We're not feeling the benefit. The impact of the increase. I think the benefit there is customers think, oh, they're not money grabbing.
Yes.
But what they're doing internally is working hard. It's like a swan, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful on the outside, but underwater they're kicking hard and they're making things work. And I think being more productive and efficient in how you do things, again, it could just be one conversation that sparks something where you go, yes, we can automate that process. And that could be one bit of automation that leads to a bigger bit of automation that leads to something end-to-end where you go, right, okay, how can we look at optimizing this journey? AI is massive. We focus on that a lot in the book.
Yeah.
It's massive at the minute.
It's a huge thing, isn't it?
It's absolutely massive.
If used right, I mean, there's a huge amount of confusion, and we could do a whole other thing on AI, which we may well do in the future.
That's the problem, is that a lot of people, I think, are jumping on a bandwagon too quick without knowing the impact it's going to have. So they're investing a lot of time and effort, potentially money as well, into AI.
Yeah.
And then go, that was the wrong thing to focus on.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we've lost X amount of customers.
Yeah,
we should have focused that time and effort on them.
And if you're a relationship business and the customer journey, the customer wants to feel like they're not just being roboted. I mean, there is nothing worse than getting an AI drip-fed. Oh, I hate them, and you can see them, right? Because the next one doesn't even answer your question. Yep. So three big flags. So making sure you've got measures, employee retention, customer retention, and profit reduction. Those are the great 3 ones. That is brilliant. Those are, if we have a look, if there's any change in those, speak to a continuous improvement expert, especially you, because you're fabulous. So we come to like the last question, which is one of those things about what inspires you. And I would like to know who your geeky brain candy person hero is and why.
It's very difficult to pick one person.
I know,
because
but do it.
there are so many inspirations out there for me that say something that go, yes, you have resonated massively with me.
Is it me?
You're one of.
No.
One of. But you're not number one, no.
Oh my God, I can't bear that.
Simon Sinek for me. And it's,
Yeah.
for me, the role I do, asking why, that book is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that for me is the way he explains things, the flip charts he does. There's almost a comedy.
A golden circle thing.
Yeah.
What a winner.
The comedy stuff to it as well. It's kind
Yeah.
of making people laugh. What I do, I love to make it fun.
Yes.
It has to be interactive and
Has to
engaging.
be.
Hence cup of tea, we make paper planes, we do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's having to engage people, taking them outside of the BAU kind of working life, something different that you can instantly relate to. I think he does that incredibly well.
Yeah, and I think being that the kind of the idiot in the room, asking those stupid questions. You know, I'm always the why child. Yeah, but why do you do that? Really, really annoying as a child. Used to get into so much trouble for that, and we get it beaten out of us, right? But doing that, Tom Hanks, I don't get it. You know, that thing. You know, and being that foolish, being humble enough and vulnerable enough to ask those questions, to not have to sit on your ego and say it's a stupid question, I'm not going to ask it, because it's those questions that really drive things. So my last question and my parting gift, your parting gift to all of our listeners and watchers, is what's the best piece of wisdom that you've had given that you give to other people?
I say it all the time. It's properly cliche, but it harnesses everything we've spoken about.
Okay.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
I love that.
I think if you look insular and you focus on yourself,
Yes.
you're not going to get anywhere, or you're going to get there slowly. Bring people on the journey, break down those silos, work together as a team. Collaboration is key.
Absolutely.
So teamwork makes the dream work.
Definitely. And that's where the enrichment comes, right? Because, you know, whilst I speak to all, I take my knowledge, it's always the whys behind the whys that makes you wise, right? And it's going out and getting those kind of the stuff behind, not just reading a sales book or reading a continuous improvement book, but actually what goes behind that. What's the human behaviour? Why do we do the things we do? What's driving us at that point?
Yeah.
And I think absolutely 100%. Well, Dave, it's been absolutely brilliant talking with you. You are absolutely the maestro in my eyes of continuous improvement. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been absolutely brilliant. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you for listening and watching our Geek Chic, our podcast created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of style. Your chosen place for business brain candy. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to give us a thumbs up, a follow, a like, a share, subscribe, all of those things. Tell all of your friends, comment, give us feedback, and we hope you've enjoyed our little production. It is brought to you in conjunction with Sales Geek Essex and DMB Films, the home for professional podcast filming. This is Lisa from Sales Geek, wishing you all wisdom and wellness. Until next time.